from the land of ice and snow, a Viking appeared in the frozen mist with a chef's knife and sauté pan. Well, okay, from warm Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, that same Viking, now with thinner blood, brings you a Viking's Kitchen.
Viking Mexican casserole, that sounds strange. Well, it's Mexican casserole made by a Viking. So however you want to describe it, that's what it is. This is a great dish, can be made with meats or without. Today we're going to make it without meats. It is a vegetarian dish, but not a vegan dish because we are going to use dairy product, which is cheese. First, we're going to crank up the heat. Some olive oil. We're going to cut these into strips, kind of like what you would see on fajitas. I use a sweet onion. You can use a regular yellow jumbo onion. I use a sweet onion. These are actual Georgia Vidalia onions. Peruvian sweet onions are great too. They look a little bit more like a UFO shape instead of round, and tells a lot about the sugar content of that onion. I'm cutting them into fourths, and we're going to break them apart, so we end up with these. And I'm going to use 1.5 green peppers. And when you cut a green pepper, you'll notice this inside. You want to get rid of that. And this is how we do that. Get rid of some of the seeds. About 3/16 of an inch thick. Not quite 1/4 of an inch, but thicker than 1/8. When we get it to this point right here, we're going to cut it in half, like that. So you end up with these strips. They're about 1.25 inches long, 3/16 of an inch thick. Oil is hot. You can see it separating in the bottom of the pan. Make sure that it's hot. Don't throw vegetables in lukewarm oil. You'll hear me talk about that, why it destroys it. You want it to seal that vegetable, make it al dente. It's the way you want to do it. Okay, we're going to throw in the green pepper and onion. We're sauteing the vegetables on high heat, and the reason for that is we don't really want to sweat these down like we're making a soup, like French onion soup. When we get ready to add the garlic, the outside of the onion and the green pepper will be just slightly brown. You'll see it starting to brown, but you don't want to caramelize the onions on this dish. The only reason I'm doing this is to show you what they look like. That's when you want to put the garlic in. Normally you would not do that. Do not have an overhead shot yet. So I'm going to add a little garlic, a little bit more. Now we're really sauteing that garlic, hitting it and sealing those flavors. So when you bite into this and when the sauce hits it, it's going to pull those flavors out. Little lime juice. Now, the secret ingredient, chipotle pepper. It's like a barbecued pepper. Smoked paprika is one of the ingredients. Oh wow, look at that. Beautiful, and the smell, the aroma. Tomato sauce. Your favorite brand. Each one has a different flavor. I prefer, there's one in California where they steam the tomatoes instead of using chemical peel to get the skin off and to cook it. It's been around for a long time. some salt, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of cumin. Make sure your lid's on tight if you're going to do it this way. Because you know what, in real kitchens, real chefs, they don't have little jars of stuff sitting around. It's exactly how they do it, and it's probably how you're going to do it at home. So why not see it the way it is, for real? All right. Oh, that's good. Excellent. Now take a little bit of cilantro here at the end. Cilantro does add flavor. It's not just for looks. It's also pretty. I've got a pre-greased Pyrex-style glass baking dish. Now, if you're using meat and you can get a hold of real lard, like when you slaughter a hog and you render the fat, utilize that because the flavor that adds is unbelievable. But since this is a vegetarian, not a vegan because we're using cheese, but a vegetarian dish, we're going to use regular vegetable shortening. So I'm going to start by adding just a little bit of sauce to the bottom. Then some chips. A little more sauce. Okay. Cheese. I use a Colby Jack cheese. I find it works very well with the Mexican style dishes. It's a little more flavor than just American cheese, and it melts really well. You could also use queso in here, especially if you want to saute it just a little bit, hit it in the pan. And we're going to top that with a few more chips. I'm patting it just a little bit. We're going to add some more sauce. Also, if you want to put, in the middle, if that's where you were adding meat, that's where you would add the meat. There's so many variations of this dish you could do. If you wanted to add different types of cheeses, whatever. This is just the basic one. Going to add a little more cheese, just a little bit. Don't want to overdo it. Don't want to underdo it either. That's a sin. When's the last time you ever heard of a Viking underdoing things? It's not what made my tribe great. Okay, into the oven. 360, 365 degrees. This is going to go for about 20, 25 minutes. Rotate it in between. I did reserve just a little bit of this sauce. Why? Because when I take it out, I want to ladle just a little of that over the top. I like real saucy stuff. Somewhere back in my lineage, maybe somewhere way back when, I must have some French in me because I love sauces. And I like to save a little, ladle it right on there, just like when you're making lasagna, save a little bit of that marinara, ladle it right on. 25 minutes, we're gonna rotate it about 12 minutes. See you soon. The Mexican casserole is done, so we're going to pull it out. Oh, look at that. Look at that. This is gonna cool for about 15, 20 minutes. It'll still be warm enough to eat. Gonna top it with some homemade salsa, some of the Viking kicker sauce, and maybe a little bit of guacamole and a dollop of sour cream. I think we're gonna be set. This is a great entree if you want to put some meat in there, or a side dish if you wanted some other entree. This is the Mexican casserole. Does that look good? Now you remember, we saved a little bit of the sauce that went inside so that we could add to it. Just like when I make a lasagna, I want to keep a little bit of marinara on the side to add to it. So I'm going to put that a little bit over the top. This is the way I like to do it. You might like yours the other way. Homemade salsa. Homemade guacamole. This is some of my kicker sauce. And some sour cream to cool the heat. Gives you that good cold hot type thing going on. Get a little bit of guacamole, a little bit of my kicker sauce in there. That I'm gonna hold the sour cream aside because I want the heat. Wow, what a meal. And what a meal. It's a great side dish, but it can also be a meal just like this. This stuff is great. You can make this ahead of time. You can make it in the morning, make it in the afternoon, just refrigerate it, bring it out, heat it up for dinner. Or I like it right as it's cooling down. Different things have different tastes at different times when they're cooling and as they set. Mexican casserole, you know how to make it. Get to it, get in your kitchen, make some. You and your guest will be astonished at how good this is and how simple it was to make. Always make it from scratch. We'll see you around.